tinfoil hat. Oh, what the fuck are you guys even talking about?
Global controls will have to be imposed, and a world governing body will be created to enforce them.
Welcome to Tinfoil Hat. We go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Are you ready to get your mind blown?
Good morning, Swarm, and welcome to Tinfoil Hat. Join me as always, Xavier Guerrero, and on the ones, two, Jay Nice, Juicy Johnny Woodard, live from the Wise Wolf Gold and Silver adjacent studios. That's right. Go to SamTripoli.gold. Use the promo code tinfoil and get in on the gold. Have precious metals set right to your house. 1 day to the election, 1 day to the madness is done. We wanted to give you a little fun episode. We get very deep with our boy Ike Baker. I mean, this is a deep conversation on the esoteric and the occult teachings. I think you guys, occult teachings and Christianity, I loved it. I thought it was a great episode. Let's get into it. All right, he's back. He's got a new book out called The Formless Fire, Rediscovering the Magical Traditions of the West. Very excited to have him back on. Always a pleasure to talk to him. Please welcome to the show. Back to the show, Ike Baker. How are you, buddy?
Excellent. Thanks for having me, Sam. Hope you're doing well, too.
Brother, I'm blessed. Life is good. You know, obviously, in all life, there is some turbulence, but the plane tends to land. I appreciate you coming back. It's been a little while since we talked. What's new? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for those who don't remember your last appearance, and tell us a little bit about where they can find your book.
Sure. So my name's Ike Baker, and I basically a content producer, independent scholar of Western esotericism. So that's the traditions of the esoteric West, like alchemy, astrology, ceremonial magic, initiation. Particularly, I am a Freemason. Ooh.
Oh, getting dangerous.
Yeah, I'm also an adept of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. I run the Asheville, North Carolina temple there. I'm a Martinist, and just a general initiate of these traditions. All
are welcome, by the way. I would like to talk to everybody. You know, yes. I have a couple buddies of mine. They're like, I'm Freemason. I'm like, you know what? I still love you. I think like every group is just like the base is just regular people for the most part. And then you get to the higher levels and then maybe it starts to get a little weird. I don't know, man. I mean,
yeah, I mean, there's.
Well, I think we talked about this last time, but maybe let's revisit it. But
there's shitty people in every organization. It's like it's something like Freemasonry in particular. When we don't have a unified sort of headquartered thing in Blue Lodge Masonry. Each state has its own jurisdiction. So there's really no unification. The closest thing we come to that is called amity, which means, okay, we shake hands, we agree that, okay, we recognize you, you could come visit us. And it's that kind of thing. To be honest with you, at the upper echelons, I mean, the biggest thing that you have is maybe like a Grand Lodge dinner and stuff like that. So it's difficult to point to something and say like, there's this really secret, nefarious head of Freemasonry. I'm not saying that might not exist in certain jurisdictions because there's certainly shitty people in every sector, but for the most part, what you will encounter in your Masonic lodge is pasta dinners, fundraising, prayer, and other forms of charity. It's really not that exciting, and it's certainly the least esoteric thing in terms of the general community and community discourse. Probably the least esoteric order of which I'm a part. So I don't think people need to be scared.
Yeah, I just, for me, it's just like there's so much of like people just my biggest problem with any kind of like way people view people is this kind of blanket statement about everybody. And it's like everything is about like keep it simple, stupid. And I think when it comes to people, that is very dangerous. It's why political correctness reigns with the retards, right? Like the
Yeah.
idiots out there. Like
100%.
they just love to plug and play everything. I had a good friend of mine the other day. I love this person to death and the pieces. I love her. And, you know, she was just, she'd text me out of nowhere. We just started talking. And then she goes, "Who you voting for?" I go, "I don't know. I'm probably not going to vote for either of them, to be honest with you." But, you know, she's like, "I'm voting for Kamala." I'm like, "Why?" And she goes, "Because she's a woman." I go, I like, I go, "That is by far the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Just give me a reason." That's all I'm saying. You could vote for her if you want to. I think it's stupid. But if you could actually say to me outside of this kind of like haunted house fright night, you know, "Oh, he's a Nazi and he's going to deport black guys," you know, or whatever the weird ideas that are out there now. Like, if you gave me a legit react, okay, go vote for that. If you think they're going to do the best job,
Yeah.
that's why I'm talking about blanket statements. Oh, all women are great. We wouldn't be in war if there was a woman running. It's just like it's really dumb. It's really dumb.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, the thing
believe
is,
in
like, people say all the time, like, so, you know, are these things cults that you're a part of? And, you know, my blanket statement is no, but at the end of the day, like, everything now is a cult. If you don't realize that America is basically an anti-human death cult at this point, there's probably something fucking wrong with you. But, you know, like,
everybody's in a cult in some way or form. Like the Yankees are letting that guy back in who grabbed the ball. Like, that's a cult. You're letting it, you know, so everything's a cult in my humble opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like, how do you define these things? But at the end of the day, what we are is we focus on esotericism, which is the sort of core behind the outer trappings, which complicate things like religion. We don't want to live in a world that is aspiritual. We want to, you know, we want to discover spirituality and bring it back practically into our lives in our neighborhoods. And that's why we do what we do. And that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, is to clarify to people that are sort of on the fence or don't really know about it, what esotericism is, where it comes from, contextually, historically, theoretically, what we think is happening. Do we think it's like Harry Potter wand waving shit? No, absolutely not. There's elements of psychology. There's all sorts of stuff that you really need to know to contextualize your foundation.
Okay, couple things real quick. One is I'm very open-minded to it all. You know, I've been on this show in December will be, I think, 8 years old. You know, so I've been on a real journey with it, like spiritually. My base, this is for me, Jesus Christ, his teachings, which is love, right? Love thy neighbor, love other people, help other people. That to me is what I'm all about. But I'm open-minded to everything else. I'm really not into organized religion. I'm not against any organized religion. I just want love and helping others and all that stuff. I have a lot of love and respect for Christianity. It resonates with me. But I'm also open-minded to that there's more going on in the past, that there's been a manipulation of the data and the history to kind of present to us a thought that will silo us into a certain way of looking at things and not being open-minded to that there may be more to it. And that's kind of where I am right now in my journey.
Yeah, I think that's great, man. I mean, I'm a Christian. I tell everybody that all the time. And people in well, I would say maybe like 50% of the people I come across in the occult community are like, you can't be an occultist and a Christian. And then like 50% of the people that I come across in the Christian community be like, you can't be an occultist and a Christian. But I'll tell you what, you know, like there's only one person who can tell me whether or not or can be a Christian, and that's Christ. And you know, he, again, like yourself, all are welcome. All are welcome. In one of the Gospels, somebody approaches him and says, like, "Yo, you're a rabbi, right? You're a teacher. You have these great insights. Why are you hanging out with these thieves and with the, you know, the prostitutes, the scum of society?" And he's like, "You know, sick people need a doctor. Well people, you know, people who are well don't need a doctor. You know, that kind of dichotomy. So it's like, Everybody is welcome to the light of Christ. And the people who try to try to sell you on this idea that it's for the reserved few and have to give you all these rules and conditions, they're full of shit. And they're espousing and really embodying the antithesis of the Christian ethos. I mean, Christ even says, there are only a few things you need to do, right? The two great commandments are to love God with all your soul and all your being, and to treat and to love thy neighbor as thyself. And then the last thing that he says is, if any of my followers would be worthy of me, they must pick up their cross and follow me in my way. So that self-sacrifice, that right, he treads the Via Dolorosa to the cross on Calvary, the way of tears. The way of sorrow, really, that's the way of self-sacrifice that will enable you to keep on giving love and elevating your neighbor and doing that, this self-abnegation. So I think when you start talking about how you know the way and your pastor knows the way and your bishop or your pope knows the way, you're taking Christ's light and you're putting it in the hands of an individual, and it will indeed, it already has corrupted.
Yeah, I see it for sure. So you have this new book out. It's pretty exciting. What's the feedback been, and like what do you want to get into? I'm excited to talk to you. I love these conversations.
Yeah, I mean, the feedback has been fantastic. It's a small we released it through a small Masonic print publishing company out of Phoenix, Arizona, called Tria Prima Press. They've done some really exciting and groundbreaking releases so far. They've put out stuff by Jamie Paul Lamb and P.D. Newman, just excellent material. So my project was, they basically told me I could write about anything, and they would publish it. And I said, well, if I'm going to write about anything, then I want to write about everything. So I really covered some ground. And my main thesis is essentially that magic, as we understand it, it's an outcropping or an outgrowth, a natural evolution from this ancient idea that the soul had fallen into materiality. So it's related to the, Neoplatonic, Platonic, Hermetic, and even Christian Gnostic, early Christian sects. It's all related. I mean, the earliest depictions of Jesus are him waving a wand. He was a magician. And he tells his disciples, all these things and more will you accomplish, will you do. More than what I have done, you will eventually do. And he was a miracle worker, and so all of this stuff, these powers that we have that are accessible to us, that are innate to the human being, have to be rediscovered, really, and they're there. They're hardwired. They're baked into our history, but they're not taught. But you can still find them. And what I've tried to do is I've tried to place them all in one repository for the earnest seeker, somebody who's trying to figure out how all these things come together. We have a very romanticized idea about like early paganism as well. The early pagans believed that the soul was in this kind of existential dilemma. Yeah, we're trapped here, and I'd better pray to Zeus, or he's going to wipe the floor with my ass, or stuff like that. It's like we're in trouble. How do we pull ourselves up out of this being mired in materiality? And there's a whole trajectory in the Platonic tradition. You don't get taught in school that Socrates had a spirit that talked to him. You don't get taught in school that Plato in the Republic, in Book 10 of the Republic, talks about an ancient near-death experience where this dude dies on the field of battle and leaves the fucking universe, and he sees like the great karmic mechanism of the universe as this gigantic rainbow-colored spindle that just comes barreling down through the center of all worlds and all universes. It's some of the trippiest shit in the world to read Plato, but nobody teaches it to you like that. But so you basically have his 35 dialogues, which is a miracle in and of itself, preserved for 2,500 years perfectly. And that's really where in the Western esoteric tradition, all this stuff boils down. So around 332 BCE, you've got Alexander the Great, whose teacher was Aristotle, whose teacher was Plato. It's a line of succession. It's a line of transmission. Aristotle conquers Persia. Persia had conquered Egypt for about 200 years. He wins Egypt like that. And that's when we get this beautiful flowering synthesis of ceremonial magic, the beginnings of modern alchemy, the beginnings of modern astrology, divination, and things like that. So that's kind of what I was trying to put together. But
I love all this.
yeah, I mean, there's certainly an esoteric Christian element that comes out of that. Truly, I mean, what we understand about Christianity being something that is quintessentially Judaic, and it's false. That is a false supposition. It's more Greek, ancient Greek, Hellenistic, actually, Greco-Egyptian, than it is Jewish. It comes from this Jewish tradition that was intermingled around the 1st century, right? The time when Jesus comes into the world, so to speak, the Christ event. They intermingled with the Hellenized Egyptians, so the Greco-Egyptian people. At that time, the population of Alexandria, Egypt, which was under the Greek rule of the Ptolemies, was 40% Jewish. And it's from this period that we start to see this sort of theurgic, cosmic sort of this Christ consciousness come into bloom. So, I mean, it's all related, and I do my best to show that there with scholarly evidence. I'm not just pulling this stuff out of my ass. I didn't channel this stuff. The evidence is there.
I love that, dude. I pray to the God all the time. Just let me know the truth, dude. Just show me what the history is. I would just love that if God could just come down and just, hey, dude, this is what happened. Don't listen to all this stuff. I'd be so into it, dude. Just let me know. And and I have a lot of great people. I'm blessed. I do shows I listen to Johnny Cash read the Bible and we discuss it. And I love all of it. I have people sending me. Shane Cashman sent me this Bible audio book. I'm going to start listening to that because I never actually sat down and understood the words of the Bible. I've always taken it through second, third hand, words. Like people tell me what was in the Bible and then telling me the interpretation of the Bible. And, there's a bunch of people that were blessed to listen to the show that thinks that Christianity is a psyop. That we've had guests on that talk about it's used in a kind of a Jesus Christ is kind of a cue figure to get us to kind of like sit back and wait for someone to come save us. I don't know, man. I just go with my gut and I don't feel that.
Yeah,
I don't feel that. It doesn't resonate with me.
Well, Jesus never said sit around and wait for me. We already discussed what he said. You got a lot of work to do on the earth, right? I mean, he charges his disciples with spreading the gospel, right? What the gospel means, what? The good news, of the resurrection and being charged with loving our neighbor and treating them as ourselves, which is probably one of the hardest fucking things to do while you're on this earth, especially there's more and more people. It's just like this fractal compounding of just people everywhere. And we're being stuffed into this like sort of vertical density in these cities and stuff, which is basically, I mean, it's this quasi animalistic living. We're just living on top.
Dude, I think they're free range psych wards. I think they're free range reservations, like what they did to the natives.
Yeah.
They're doing to us, but we don't see it because we think, it's like when how many times, guys, have you left Los Angeles, New York, and you're like, Johnny, you're in your small town. You're like, man, I'm bored. There's not a lot going on here. And then you run right back and like, you're just saturated in sex, drugs, alcohol, all these things that really are like adding to this kind of visible jail that surrounds you that you really don't even understand, that is kind of controlling what you do. And I'm a victim of that as well. Obviously my addictions are very well documented. I talk about it all the time in hopes other people will see that they can get out of their own way. I still struggle with some, but man, we're just drowning in vices here, and that's done on purpose.
Dude, I feel that all the time. FOMO, fear of missing out. You can't have fear of missing out when there's nothing going on where you're at.
Yeah.
I get fear of missing out because all my friends are here. There's a Dodger game. There's a sports bar down the street. So you're invited to do it because fear of missing out. Your friends are there. Everybody's there.
Are you gonna chase pussy? Are you gonna get drugs? Are you gonna do a gacker in the bathroom? Are you all these things to me? And dude, granted, I fully participate in all those. Like, just get you farther away from self, in my humble opinion. They're quick fixes to take you out of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, so we were just in Egypt, a group of 23 of us, and we'll talk about this a little later, but I co-organized and co-founded something called the Hermopolis Symposium. And we were in the deserts of Minya, Egypt for about I want to say a week. And we're passing the scenery where like there's these Egyptian people in these lush beautiful little plots of land, the most verdant green, and they have these irrigation systems, and they're using these sort of primitive looking tools to harvest certain cabbages and stuff, and then just surrounded by desert. And I said to my buddy Jamie Lamb, this scenery hasn't changed much in like 2,000 years. This probably looks exactly the way it did. And then he turns to me and he's like, I think it would be a good life. And the truth is, we got down to it. Like both of us, we know rationally that life would be like the best, purest life. But the thing is, like, we've hyper evolved in the direction of like, I guess just this twisted, this inversion of the soul that even though we know that's probably what's best for us, we wouldn't be able, we're not equipped to handle it. We're not equipped to handle a simple life. And that's actually something that I discuss in my book. There was a second century philosopher, big guy on the scene. His name was Plotinus. And he was a Greco-Egyptian philosopher working in the Platonic tradition of philosophy. They call him the father of Neoplatonism because his philosophy was so innovative at the time that it scholastically, because that's a retrospective sort of title, scholastically or academically, it's worthy of note in terms of being something kind of new, something kind of an innovation. And he basically has this to say about the soul. The soul descends into materiality, and it becomes sort of attached, as it were, to matter, which is its body. Now, the soul is bright and luminous, and the soul is eternal. The soul comes from an eternal realm where it knows and participates in God, but it descends into an area that is not eternal, that is finite, that really God is occluded from. We can't really see much evidence right out of the gate. We don't look upon the face of God, as it were. It's in a very veiled way. And this realm has its demands, right? Finitude, something that has a beginning, a growth period, an apex, a decay, and death. It's subject to things like survival. It's subject to things like hunger. It's subject to things like the procreative urge. And none of those things are bad in and of themselves per se, but it's antithetical to the soul's nature. So like we say, the material inclination binds like a rope the once far wandering soul into a very narrow place. And so what happens is when the soul becomes confused and begins to identify with the body and the demands of the body and follows those demands to its own ends, instead of being like a sort of a judge and a just ruler over and said, no, this far and no further do we go. But when we really stoop down and descend into that world of appetites, survival becomes greed. Hunger becomes gluttony, procreative love becomes lust. And then what happens? We have now become bound and chained to something that is actually inferior to our nature. And we become inheritors of a dying world, when in truth, our essence is life itself. So there's much more at stake here, because what Plotinus says is, now if the soul turns back quickly and reverts itself back upward and desires union with God, it's going to be okay. But the problem is that if the soul spends too much time wandering in the darkness of the outer world, it becomes conditioned. It becomes conditioned by its experience in materiality. And that essentially is hell. Think about like all your lusts, and you think about all your greed and all your desires. What happens?
That is fire, bro.
What happens?
Such fire right there.
What happens if you die tomorrow and you have no physical way of fulfilling those things? It's just your soul tainted by it's just gluttony and its excess with no way to express those things. That is, if you believe in the continuity of consciousness, that is hell.
Damn, dude. You got to get your affairs right before you pass, so your soul isn't stuck in hell. Yeah, man. That's real interesting to me, dude. That totally makes sense. Hey guys, real quick, I want to tell you about our boy James McMahon and Copy My Crypto. Listen, guys, has it pissed you off to watch crypto fly up in prices for a decade and you still have done nothing about it. It makes sense. Crypto's complicated and really boring. Well, here's the good news. You don't need to know a thing about crypto to make money like so many have. The copymycrypto.com membership site shows you the exact cryptos that YouTuber James McMahon personally owns, which means you just got to copy him. It's like having a big brother who knows what he's doing. You don't need to know a thing about crypto or how to invest. Just simply copy along. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about James. He runs the Crypto with James YouTube channel, which has over 54,000 subscribers. In the summer of 2020, he told his viewers to buy 26 cryptos. Had you put $100 into each, it went on to be well worth $123,000. Of the 26 cryptos, his top pick of the year, the one he singled out called Phantom, went up 692 times from when he said to buy it, okay? That one call alone has retired a number of people, including guys in the 20s and 30s. Remember, this is public knowledge. You can go to YouTube and verify for yourself. So if you'd like to join the 2,800 members who have copied James, then pause what you're doing and head over to copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's copymycrypto.com/TFH. That's TFH. You'll not only find proof of everything I said, but my viewers will get a full access for just $1. Yes, you've missed out on Bitcoin, but there's over 2 million other cryptos. Do you really think you've missed out on all of it? Guys, don't waste your time. Go to the site and read it. Once again, that's copymycrypto.com/TFH. Guys, it's ended money worries for so many. It may just do the same for you. Copymycrypto.com/TFH. I have a buddy of mine who, you know, his journey is well documented. He was like lost. He went through a lot of trauma as a child, and it reared its head in drug abuse to the point he did gay pornography, right? I'm going to lose a couple people on this, but you know, and then he was hooked on drugs. And, you know, I kind of talked to him about it. And through his own, you know, hard work, he kicked the drug abuse. He's almost got a year and he's got out of that lifestyle. And I just saw him tweet today that like the more spiritual he gets, the less he lusts. And I go, that's some high vibrational shit right there, dude.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And I mean, like it goes, so Plato's whole idea of like, so we're in this kind of ignorant state, which we can all kind of attest to. We don't get the rules, the real rules when we're born. We get like the rules that our parents kind of just, and our neighbors and our institutions kind of just bought into. So, but Plato basically says some people are bound to be philosophical and come to the light. It's the whole idea of the allegory of the cave, which I'm sure most people are familiar with. But his whole thing is like, okay, so you realize that you're ignorant. You realize that you're chained in a dark cave and watching these shadows on the wall, and it's a fake reality. But how do you elevate? And his idea was you have to contemplate God, which he called to agathon, the good, because it was the greatest possible good, the source of all goodness, of all light and all life, really. And you had to contemplate that. And his idea was that no person could fully understand after contemplating God. You know, like you contemplate God, you contemplate the good, and you come to an understanding of its appearance and its manifestation and its nature. After that, no person could ever really err again. You couldn't dip into, you know, really, there'd be no way for you to become as ignorant, to go back out into that outer darkness, right? Because where there is light, there can be no darkness, right? When you shine a light, the shadow's gone.
That's incredible. I'm with you on that. And it's just like to be able to condition yourself not to go back to those things that brought you silent pain and suffering.
Yeah, but you got to keep your headspace right. Like you were saying, you know, you have to constantly reorient yourself upward, because another idea from these traditions is that the soul's essential nature is eros, which some people are going to confuse with sexual desire, but really what we mean in a philosophical sense is just desire in and of itself, right? As human beings, we want things. We want stuff, you know. Sometimes we want those things are less tangible. We want security. We want happiness. Sometimes those things are physical. We want a new car. You know, we want a good-looking spouse or something like that, or even a faithful spouse. But the soul always wants something. It's really not content anytime it gets those things, because that itch that it's trying to scratch that it can't is actually a remembrance of God and its union to God. So the whole idea is to take that desire, because it's a powerful fuel, which, you know, if you have a desire to be a stand-up comedian, you have a desire to be an actor, you have a desire to be a writer, that desire can push you on against all odds. And you can succeed against all odds because it's so powerful a motivator. But now if you orient that upward and your desire becomes the spiritual, the numinous, God, or, you know, God in Christ, that is what philosophically is probably the best direction, the best kind of focal point or goal for this energy, this desire, this eros.
That's you know, it's like, it's so funny right now. A good friend of mine is kind of in the public eye right now with a joke he did about Puerto Rico at Trump's. And when you talk about this kind of like this drive, I mean, there's no better example of that than Tony Hinchcliffe and his drive and his belief in himself to get to exactly where he wanted to be, which is at the Trump rally, you know, making jokes about Puerto Ricans. And, you know, and it's just like such an interesting time because, you know, that I don't think there's a scandal if it wasn't at that exact moment, at that exact time, in this time in our country. And that's exactly what you talk about, this kind of the will to this to happen. But it's also this kind of will to like get closer to God. And it's like, regardless of whatever you believe, like there's going to be people that are like, oh, I'm over the religious stuff. I get it. But like, what do you believe in? Like, what do you believe? Like, you just think we're like monkeys on a rock hurling through space, and like all this crazy kind of detail in the world just randomly like, it makes no sense to me, dude. It makes no sense to me. What you're saying is that this just randomly, this beautiful meal was made with no creator making it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing, especially I didn't, this isn't my quote, but I love it. I heard it years ago. The issue with science is that it breaks several of its first rules right out of the gate, right? It says, give me one free miracle and I'll explain the rest. So it's like, you know, like, it's like, we're not even off on a good foot here. You had to break, break several of your rules to even fucking exist.
Yeah. It's so crazy to me. So let's get into what you want to talk about, man. I feel like you've answered my question. I want everybody to understand it. You had this conference, you put together your own suicide squad to go out there and just kind of figure it all out. Take us through this, man, because I love it. You know, it's like I was on Rogan. We talked about the pyramids, and you know, I kind of go along with him. You know, I'm working my way back into kind of where I can insert myself a little bit more. I think that the history of the Egyptians is like way deeper. Like, who knows how deep that? I mean, we see things that look like the Sphinx all over the world on top of mountains that go way deeper, but we think that's where it stops. And I think it just, you know, we what's the saying somebody said on the show? We live on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, so when we get into this, I just think it's so much deeper than maybe some people want to think it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like everything that I wrote in my book, and I'm like the first person to say this, is that what we have a really nicely preserved tradition in the writings of the ancient Greeks. We don't necessarily get that in the Egyptians, right? Not a lot of people know how to read the hieroglyphs. And it's just, people seem to be more interested in the Greek stuff because our minds as modern people are closer to the Greek mind. The Egyptian worldview was one of total holism. Everything was a complete miracle to them. They saw the gods in everything. So it's more difficult for our translators with like this postmodern sort of bifurcation of left and right hemisphere, to borrow a simplified analogy. They're not going to, how do you get like an academic to really kind of translate this beautiful poetry, when they have nothing of an artist in them? So that was the whole thing, that the Egyptian brain, the Egyptian way of seeing the world is much closer to the way like a really almost what we would consider sort of fringy, maybe idiosyncratic kind of, fringy artist might be viewing the world. So to get an academic to translate that stuff is hard. But the thing is, we have the Greek saying, all of our best and brightest were trained by the Egyptians. All of them, Plato, Thales, Solon, Pythagoras, they all had training in Egypt. And when they got back from Egypt, they were basically fucking wizards, so there was definitely something going on there. And to be in that land, as we were for the past week, I got back like yesterday, was unbelievable. There are mysteries there that, I don't know. They're like soul haunting. You'll stand there and just look at the pyramid, or this was my first time inside the Great Pyramid, actually, and you're just looking at it, you're like, how the shit was this built? Why was this built? And we don't have good answers, really. I have a friend of mine named Carl Hayden Smith, who was he's a researcher from the UK. He was with us for the symposium, and he does a lot of kind of like resonance experiments and neurological experiments in the Great Chamber, or in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. So he's doing some really interesting work there, and he was with us for the conference. So essentially, myself and Dr. Mervat Abdel Nasser, who 15 years ago, she created this little heritage site and an eco-village called the New Hermopolis, right outside the ruins of the ancient city of Hermopolis Magna. We decided that we were going to found this conference called the Hermopolis Symposium, and we got some of the foremost scholars in the world. It's an international conference, as well as practitioners. So in the fields of esotericism and Western philosophy and general occulture. So we have professors like Walter Hanegraaff from the University of Amsterdam, who's the history of Hermeticism and related currents. We had Dr. Shannon Grimes from Meredith College, who wrote a wonderful book with Rubido Press. Aaron Cheek, who's a scholar from New Zealand. Dr. Gregory Shaw. Dr. Charles Stang, who's the head of Harvard Divinity School's Center for the Study of World Religions. All these great minds were there. And then we brought in astrologers like Jamie Paul Lamb, Soledad Davies. We brought in ceremonialists like myself, Robert Gordon. It was just incredible. There were about 23 of us. And we sat there with no audience, because we have a digital track sort of stream. We were so remote, there'd be no way to broadcast live. So we recorded all of it, and that's going to be for sale very soon. But to view the proceedings of the conference, but we basically sequestered and gave each other presentations for 4 days straight, and then we ended it with this gigantic symposium where we discussed, like, going forward, what does academia, what does education look like in the light of what we call Hermetic esotericism, which is that kind of Greco-Egyptian esotericism, and what are the?
Can I ask you something real quick? Because this is a question I have.
Please.
Hermes, we're talking Hermes here? Hermetic principles?
Yeah, we're talking Hermes, but really we're talking Hermes Trismegistus.
Now, should we be concerned that Hermes is the son of who's his father? The great hunter from the Bible. What was his name? Johnny? Who's the great hunter in the Bible? What's his name? Fuck. I can't believe it.
I wouldn't really say that this has anything to do
Nimrod?
Nimrod, right? Nimrod. Should we be concerned with that? Because what Nimrod represents in terms of the Babel, and all that stuff.
Well, I wouldn't say that the Hermes we're talking about has anything to do with the Bible, as particularly the Old Testament. in that way. It really, what we have here in Hermes Trismegistus, which we call the Hermetic literature, is we have the Greek god Hermes, right? So when, I'll put it this way, when the Greeks came to Egypt to conquer them in the conquest of Alexander the Great, they loved the Egyptians already. It's like, we've been working with you guys for years. You guys basically gave us, that the spark that led us on to great philosophy and great civilization. So we want you guys to flourish, and we see that there's a consonance. There's an agreement between our ideas, your ideas, our gods, your gods, right? So they basically said, oh, there's sort of this one-to-one here. Our Hermes is your thought. The scribe god, the god of literature, music, art, magic, great ideas, learning, right? So then you have this religio-philosophical textual tradition, a philosophical tradition that is attributed to this sort of mythical figure named Hermes Trismegistus, who was thought to be the great patron and teacher of these arts to people. But what they did was, in order to give themselves not just legitimacy, but to point to the fact that, like, this book is related to this sort of textual tradition, they just attributed to Hermes Trismegistus. So I could write something as maybe, let's say, a priest in that era, having to do with music or the arts or astronomy, and I wouldn't write, because there's no financial gain. It's not like the writing today where everything's about credit and, ooh, look at me and talk to my manager. It wasn't about, they weren't making any money. So they wanted to contribute to a canon of literature that was enriching their civilization for generations to come. And they also wanted to sort of minimize the self, right? It's not about the messenger, it's the message. And so they basically said, okay, this was written by Hermes Trismegistus. That's the Hermes we're talking about. And that's where we get the word Hermetic. So, but the thing is, the Hermetic traditions, like the dude that Joe had on that talk about like the Kabbalion, like, no offense to him or anything, but that was like fucking preschool shit. Like that was like entry level Oprah book club kind of shit. So it was not necessarily like the really rigorous erudite understanding of what Hermeticism is. The Kabbalion actually is not Hermetic. I would say that there are far greater, and most scholars would, and practicing occultists would agree with me. So we want to be really clear on the type of Hermetic philosophy we're talking about. But essentially, it's this Greco-Egyptian priestly magical tradition.
So basically, to sum it up, those two aren't the same Hermes. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, totally different.
Okay, respect.
Totally different. Totally different. But sort of the Hermetic tradition for us is about this idea of, unity and what you're talking about, really. I mean, there's this whole like non-dual thing going on right now, and people talk about non-duality. And I'm not saying that they're wrong or off base necessarily in terms of essence, but the problem is that they use it just to check out a society, like to just, they use it more like as a mood modifier and something to, like, I don't know, regulate their nervous system. And it's not really this philosophical way of life. And it actually, I've seen it be used to justify really shitty behavior. I would say that even though like everything comes from a source, everything goes back to that source. When we're alive here in the universe, in the physical, the physical material realm, you're going to have duality. You're going to have multiplicity, whether you like it or not. You're going to be a human being till you're dead. So the idea is, how do you live in duality with unity in mind? And there's one answer: love. That's it, right? Love is the unifying field. It's the unifying force that wants to bring things together instead of push them apart.
I agree.
So it's like, we want to take the Hermetic philosophy and apply that in the real world, especially now when people think that they're spreading the gospel of love, and really what they're pushing is divisiveness, which is the antithesis of love.
Yeah, I've been a little guilty of that lately on Twitter, like teeing off on people. I feel like one of my favorite comics of all time is George Wallace, and he's just tweeting the most retarded shit right now. And I usually don't comment on other comics, but man, it's crazy. But you're right. I'm not using love anymore. I need to do that. I need to use love.
Well, I mean, look at it this way, right? even Jesus whipped the money changers. Sometimes we've heard of things called tough love, right?
Yes.
So that is legitimately a thing. I think the difference is when you start to enjoy giving people tough love, then you're off base. Now you're off base. But sometimes, yeah, people need to be. It's like Christ.
Oh no, you're right. You're right. No, I know people who always give you that tough love, but I'm like, you just want to give me, you just want to talk shit and then say, oh, it's just tough love, and I'm
Exactly.
like, oh yeah.
Exactly. When people kind of lean in that, and that's their baseline state, and they seem to be enjoying it a little too much, I don't believe that's tough love. But I do think there are ways of, correcting people's errors, or at least reminding them of them, pointing to them like, hey man, this is pretty fucked up. You're a little off base. I don't know what you've been drinking, but so I think there's love in that too, right? Because it's not all about fluff and love and light all the time. We know for a fact that's just not how it is here.
I find it so interesting. I find everything just energy, dude. It's all energy. And when you kind of said earlier, it's not Harry Potter. I just don't even know if that's not true. I don't even know. I'm starting to think, dude. Again, like I think at the highest levels, they're doing sorcery, dude. They're using sorcery, direct energy weapons, weather manipulation. Our phones are reading our thoughts. And they basically can make anything a listening device now. The Havana syndrome, Project Looking Glass. Project Looking Glass is the only one we know that's not real 100%, or that's possibly not real. Probably is real, but all that stuff seems to be like Marvel comic shit to me.
Yeah. Magic. It's all magic. All that. If you told anybody back then, you'd be like, they'd say, "Oh, that's magic. That's all magic."
Yeah, that's not happening. That's not real.
Yeah.
The manipulation of people's perception through energy, through tweets, through
psychology,
astroturfing, psychology, all that stuff seems to be witchcraft to me, or sorcery.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, right? A lot of people say, okay, well, this is psychological. How can it be magic? But at the end of the day, the ancient Greek and Coptic word, right? Greco-Egyptian word for soul was psyche. So because the soul, as they thought of it, was not some like Casper the Friendly Ghost, like white double. There's that more is the energy body, like you're talking about. You have an energetic body. The Egyptians called this the Ka, but you also have a soul, which the Egyptians called the Ba. But in Greek, it was psyche, and it's just meant to represent the internal experiences of selfhood. So psychology is a kind of magic because it's affecting and, right, we said before, conditioning, changing, fundamentally altering the soul. So the thing is, like, you got all these people out there that want to change the world, but the problem is, like, they're a miniature snapshot of the world, and they don't even fucking realize it. So what you're really doing is you're trying to clean up an oil spill with dirty hands. It's like, it's not, you're contributing to the mess. What you need to do, according to the ancient philosophies, is practice the method of cleaning your own hands. Practice the method of constantly cleaning yourself.
Otherwise,
the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I totally agree. And it gets into this thing with conspiracies. It's like, oh, don't worry about the sheep. Wake up the sleeping lions. I'm like, don't even wake up the sleeping lions. Let them wake themselves up. Work on yourself. It is even through the internet. We've seen this. Everything, the internet got us to focus on Washington, D.C. and not in our own neighborhoods, in our own yards. We fix yourself. Be the I say this all the time. Be the example for others. That like through recovery, that is everything. Show them how it's done and they will do it. You got to show them how it's done. You got to be the example for people to emulate and follow. Yeah, I agree that wholeheartedly, dude. Clean your fucking hands.
That's it. And it's what's really interesting too is that it's being hidden under the guise of like, saving the world. So you've got the social justice kind of team out there, the far left, the liberals that are basically fucking insane, and they're thinking about changing the world. But then you've got this other contingency of people that are like, no, we need to protect the world from those people. But the main project here is training us to constantly rely on this thing. to constantly look at it, because this is where I'm getting my shitty news. This is where I'm following the people I like. This is where I'm like smashing the like button because SamTripoli said something hilarious to a group of people.
Yes.
You know, like, so I rely on it too. My presence is there. My career started on the internet, but we got to recognize what's happening. We are being trained. We're being diverted away, right? Legacy media is dead. The news is dead. They're just taking our attention from TV and moving it over to the smart devices. So it's like one way of, or probably the best way of cleaning your hands, starting off, is get off this fucking thing. Get off, throw it in the fucking river. Okay. Like, get off of this thing.
I want to so badly, so badly, dude, so badly.
Yeah, me too. I don't know that that'll happen right away, but I'm trying. I'm trying to find ways to wean off. Like, one of the things that we do now, me and my fiance, is like, okay, this doesn't come in the bedroom. We bought a fucking alarm clock from like the 60s, you know, like that old 90s. It's got the two bells and the hammer that like rings it. So it's just little ways of chipping back, because it is like an oil spill. It will seep into every crevice of your life.
No. And you're right. I keep it on in my room because it's an alarm clock. Oh, I use it for this. I give these little excuses on why I have it, why I need it. Oh, it's a camera. Oh, what if I need to take a picture? What if I need to record a voice memo? Because back then you weren't going to carry a camera. You weren't going to carry an alarm clock. You weren't going to carry it's so convenient. Well, you're right. Just buy the alarm clock. If you need it because of an alarm clock, get an alarm clock.
Hey guys, if you guys listen to Broken Sim, you know Johnny got me the greatest gift ever, and that's a Patrick Ewing card. Okay, that's right. You know Daddy loves cards, and that's why I love Arena Club. There's no better place to get in on the action than our good friends at Arena Club. Let me tell you about Arena Club. Listen, as a kid, I loved to collect cards, and now it's back on. That's right. Collecting cards is as easy as possible thanks to our good friends at Arena Club. For the most of us collecting cards, the idea of spending $2,000 or more on a Mahomes rookie card just isn't in the cards. I love collecting. Johnny does too. But that's some real serious money to drop. Thanks to slab packs from arenaclubs.com. Now it's possible to score gems minted for a fraction of their retail price. Every card that I listed was hit from last week's Arena Club slab pack drop. Arena Club is the only repack that provides real value, a complete view of all the possible cards, and clear hit rates on each one of them. Johnny, what has your experience been?
I will say the first time I got a slab pack from Arena, I hit on this huge Mike Trout red of 5 card, PSA 10, beautiful card. I'm still holding on to it. It's worth quite a lot of money. It's a ton of fun. I also have quite a few of the cards in my collection on there. You can go check me out. Just I search my name, Johnny Woodard, on Arena Club. I'm on there all the time. Love it. Great service. Arena Club slab packs are revolutionizing the repack game with transparency. After your pulls are revealed, they'll immediately be placed in your showroom for safekeeping, selling, trading, or auction. The Arena Club grading process is accurate, fast, and transparent, with a full grade rationale provided and explanation of how your card was scored. Whether you're buying, selling, trading, or displaying, Arena Club is the card collecting platform you have to check out.
So listen, right now, Arena Club is giving us a great deal. Right now, you can get 10% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/tinfoil and use the code tinfoil. That's arenaclub.com/tinfoil, code tinfoil for 10% off your first purchase.
Yeah, I mean, like the luxury of convenience. The luxury of convenience is one of the most destructive things to the soul. I tell people all the time, my students, I have sort of private students. I give private lessons. It's like a closed number of people. We study philosophy, we study astrology, all the stuff we're talking about. And one of the things that I tell people is that 2 things that destroy the soul worse than anything else: poverty and luxury. Will destroy this, will completely condition and ruin the soul. And really, that is the thing that they're leveraging, is the luxury. We think, okay, like I'm middle class, or I'm upper middle class, or I'm lower middle class. Like, the way we live is luxurious compared to not only the rest of the world, but the rest of history, dude. like, even if you're kind of like
You're
middle
so
class,
right, dude.
you can go to the store and get a fucking steak. Only kings ate steak for like 1,000 years. You know, like,
Dude, your apartment, not you, but anybody's apartment they live in is like probably more comfortable than all of these castles.
yeah, exactly. I have heat,
Right? Like,
I have like
you watch
central
Game
air.
of Thrones, I'm like, that seems freezing to me. Like,
Mhm.
I would always be cold. You would have to have 1,000 fires for me to ever not be like, bro, this place is chilly as shit, dude. I'm
Yeah.
so sick
Well,
and
and
tired
dude,
of
the
living
way
in this
castles
rock.
the way castles are represented too in media I mean, it completely overestimates how comfortable they are and how big they are. Most of them were quite small. Most of these lords and stuff that
Yeah.
lived like in England were, I mean,
Right.
they had like little keeps and stuff that were, oh, just, I mean, and then think about it. From most of history, people were shitting outside, man. Shitting
Yeah.
outside.
Oh.
We get to shit inside.
Yeah.
You're right.
We get to shit inside. That's
Yeah.
how good we have it.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, our baseline luxuries are those of like kings and queens in former time. I mean, not only that. Here's something weird. This is just an aside. Being on a plane, right? I'm terrified of flying. Terrified, but I never let it stop me. I probably fly like twice, 3 times a month, and I'm looking out the window and I'm just looking at like the Swiss Alps as I'm flying over them, and I'm thinking to myself, not even a Roman emperor had this vantage point.
Yeah, you're
You know?
so right, dude.
Like,
You're
I get to
so right.
see that, like the dude next to me, you know, who's had diarrhea for an hour, running back and forth to the bathroom. He gets to look out the window and just see the Swiss Alps from like higher than from a bird's view.
Or he
You know?
gets to shit in a plane, bro. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
right? I mean, like, my God.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh, it's crazy, dude.
It is. It's wild. It's good to remind ourselves of this stuff. I think maybe some of your audience will appreciate hearing
No,
that
I
too.
love it, dude. I love all this shit, dude. I think it's so important to just go, how deep does it go, bro? How deep does all of it go and everything? So you go out there, so you do this thing, there's no like internet, you have to record it, you put it out, and what are you guys working on? What are you guys talking about out there?
Well, we're talking about, we understand that there is this kind of really screwed up trajectory in academia right now, and that has reinforced for several hundred years now this kind of very positivistic meaning, positivism is like the philosophical idea that science can answer every question. That's what positivism is. I don't say materialism because it's kind of been phased out. It's an outdated term. But positivism in the academy is kind of like, is doing more harm than good right now, because it's creating this unconscious bias, this unconscious, well, for lack of a better term, materialism and atheism. And so like, these are people in academia. And so we're discussing like, how do we begin to bring these ideas back, revivify the ancient spiritual traditions, including the Christian tradition. I mean, you know, the Charles Stang, who's the director of the Harvard Center for the Study of World Religions, he's been one of the hugest proponents of early Christianities, man. I mean, he's written such excellent works for seeking Christians, people who seek an understanding of early Christianity. So
I love that.
Yeah,
I love
man.
that. Real quick before we move on, the biggest problem I see right now with academia or whatever is that you just have people kind of just chasing a narrative instead of the truth. And you know, we just had a guy who got basically kicked out of his college because he lied about all the studies that he was citing. That was this paper was the basis for the BLM riots.
Wow.
And it was all lie. And then on the flip side, you had a guy who studied like racial discrimination in police and the population, and he found that there's actually, if you look at the data, there's no racial bias whatsoever. And he was told by his peers, do not publish this paper. It will do more bad than good. And that to me is the ultimate bad, is not telling people the truth.
Right.
That is at the core of everything. Is like, you can be wrong as long as you honestly thought you were trying to do your best and you were
Right.
giving out the information that you had, that later on you found out was wrong. And that's why I have zero problems with someone going, hey, dude, you're wrong about this. I go, show me. And I go, okay, like, I got it wrong with the Elon Musk stuff. That thing looked like to me like it was going in reverse, like someone just reversed the video. I'd never see anything move like that.
Oh, that's so funny. I tweeted about that. I didn't realize you'd done that. If you saw that, I wasn't making fun of you. I was just being silly. I tweeted like a joke that it was.
So can someone explain the tweet for the people who didn't see it? It's the Elon Musk rocket,
just
right?
That rocket being caught at the platform, caught in quotes.
But the way the fire shot out, I'm like, that looks like it's in reverse.
Yeah, no,
that looks like it's not real.
Just, you know why it doesn't look real is because we've never seen that.
We've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, we don't know how to process that.
And someone showed me a video of it coming back down from far away and a bird flying right in front of it. And I go, I was wrong.
There's a lot
and
of
I'll admit that I'm wrong. And I'm not here to be right. I'm here to do right. And admit you're wrong is the right thing to do. And that's what I do. And, we're just finding in academia, it's like this narrative is more important than the truth. And it's like group think. It's like impossible to have original thought around the thinkers because you don't get promoted. You don't get the funding for your projects. If you don't play ball, it's the same thing in medicine and science. If you don't find the findings they want you to find, you're not going to find any kind of funding for your projects.
Yeah, and I mean, I just being close to academics in the tenured academics that are saying academia is in a real crisis right now, particularly in this country. Not just, I love that idea, chasing a narrative instead of the truth. But because they don't believe, the problem is that they've divorced themselves from the idea that truth can exist. It's like their whole bullshit thing is true. The perception is truth, and there are various kinds of independent truth. And what I tell people is like, yeah, but we're all looking at something from a different vantage point. It's like if you're looking at me from a side view, he's looking at me from behind. But like your truth is not the truth, but that doesn't mean that truth doesn't exist. So that's a problem we're having. There's a big crisis. We want to think, how do we change this? What are new ways of teaching this stuff? What are new ways of engaging with that stuff? To me, if you want to teach this stuff in like any serious capacity, you got to do what they were doing, which means that you have to study astrology. You have to do forms of ceremonial ritual. I mean, where do you think the Mass of the Eucharist comes from? That word itself is Greek, right? Eucharisto means thanksgiving. All of this stuff, the Christian liturgies, all of this stuff comes from these ceremonial, ritualized traditions. So we want to get back into studying and doing that stuff and bringing that like Hermetic fire back into the world, and getting people to understand this idea of unity and love and how to express that in learning and in ceremony and things like that, because human beings, no matter what I forget who coined the term, we're a religious animal. It's just what we are. So, and I don't think that we're animals, so take that with a grain of salt, but we're just religious beings. Now, if we don't have something spiritual to do, we're going to worship corporations. We're going to worship celebrities. We're going to worship technology.
The sun.
We can't not worship shit. It's just the way it's built into us.
I love that. You're totally right. And you say we're not animals. I do believe we're God's greatest creation, and there's something very interesting about us. I do think we have mammal tendencies. We really got to have a leader. We love a leader. We love somebody to look up to. We love somebody we trust, and that can get us in really bad spots. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of what's going on with this election right now. It's like, do we really have a guy or a woman or either of them that we really think is going to lead us to the promised land? But people can't get out of that way of, I got to follow one of these people, and that gets us into the lesser of of two evils. So yeah, we end up worshiping something. At some point, you end up worshiping something. That explains cults, right? Like again,
Yeah.
going back to our, like some dude is like, it's like that person who tells you on this day the aliens are coming, and then about 2 weeks out, they're just sweating because they're like, these aliens aren't going to be coming. I don't know how I'm going to spin this, you know. But we just got to be trustworthy. I always said this: if you go down to Hollywood Boulevard and you see all the Scientology buildings, and I think everybody's special, everybody's unique, but the people you see staying outside these Scientology building, nothing stands out about them. There's nothing super unusual, striking about them. They're just regular looking people, but they're so desperate for connection that they join this kind of like this, for lack of a better word, a cult. Yeah. Which promise you, if you play your cards right, you may become a famous person in Hollywood. We're one of the ways you make it to the top of that. And for that, some people are willing to exchange everything they ever had or any connection they ever had for fleeting fame. So yeah, I think you're totally right about that.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about like somebody leading us to the promised land. For people worship politicians now, it's crazy. But I think that there is no fucking promised land. The promised land is right under your feet. It's your state of mind that determines whether or not you're in Eden or outside of it. So, you know, it's you need to cultivate that pristine state of mind, and there are techniques for doing it, you know, and that doesn't mean that you become a hermit and walk away from the world. Like you'll do much more. You'll have greater impact if you stay in the world and cultivate that kind of stuff. I do think that we're in a period of darkness right now. I just do. And I'm not saying that some good won't come of it, but I certainly think that
this is low vibrational, low density for sure. But at this lowest density.
At this point, the way out is the way through. Like we're not getting out of this. We can only go through this. And part of this is because for so long, we didn't do this personal internal work. So now that we've kind of ignored the mission, now we have to confront it finally because there's no other way out. So I hope that comes across in my book to some degree or another. You know, I try to keep myself pretty open and available to anybody. So if anybody out there has any questions about it or about any of this stuff, they can just reach out to me either on my website or on Facebook or something like that. And I love talking with people about this stuff.
Yeah, I feel like you have to constantly be searching for the truth, and that's what keeps you interesting, and that's what keeps you growing spiritually, and also slows down time a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're set in your ways and you're always doing the same thing, you think there's one way to do one thing, I think it gets you in real big trouble right now. And I think it's the quickest way to fast forward your life. And I just love being open to everything. And I don't know if any one group has the market on the truth. I think probably it's a little bit of everything. Right. And I think most people are probably saying the same thing, just in different ways. I mean, you know, I just did Rogan. I wanted to get into some stuff. I wanted to get into the Abrahamic prophecies about the wars that, you know, that some people think are coming, that Christians and Jews and Muslims all think that are coming. And how it's so interesting that like this book, this Bible has predicted so much stuff. And so my question to you is like, do you think that it is all foretold? Is there a way for things to get kind of just think into, like maybe we're going this way and some just think and hits us just a tiny bit. Now we're going this way, right? Or is everything just playing out according to the script that has already been written?
No, there's no way. I think personally, the main component that people are very dismissive of, because most people shirk responsibility. Most people don't. They want to find any excuse to throw their hands up and say, I'm not responsible, you know, so that you can go out and literally live your most, you know, just debased, gratified, selfish life. And I think one of the strongest arguments for that kind of foolishness is determinism. But like you said, nobody, nothing, no branch of knowledge, no topic of study owns the truth, because there are pieces of it everywhere, right? God allures people by scattering himself in fragments of the universe. And we have to put the pieces together by searching and seeking, as you say, very, very aptly and appropriately. We have to constantly search for it. But the truth, it's an axiom, right? It's kind of a cliche that the truth is always a combination of opposites. It's kind of this third thing. And so there is a deterministic component to reality, and there's a free will component. We see that. And it's both of those things operating at the same time. And that's how we have, two opposing forces, and one which unites them eternally is how we have reality. Day and night, light and darkness, heat and cold. They're really one thing, but they're two sides of like one spectrum of activity. And so we have this free will and this deterministic component that basically says, there's this kind of mechanistic thing, and it's affected, as you say, dink, 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 by tiny degrees, or greater or lesser degrees, by your choices. Now, I think in a lifetime, or in a lifetime of a people, in a history of a people, there are certain crossroads where that choice has a greater consequence than at other places. I think we are at one of those crossroads now, and what we choose to do, that 51%, as a people, as a race of human beings on this earth, as a form of consciousness on and with the earth, that's going to decide ultimately what happens. I believe in the symbolic interpretation of some forms of prophecy as a general thing. For instance, when you talk about Revelation and the end of the world, that's what has to happen to the Christian. The Christian has to give up their world. That's what Christ did. The Christian has to overcome the heads of the dragon, which are in us. Those different kinds, right? I mean, let's call them the deadly
nine-headed
vices.
beast. Is that what we're talking about? The 10-headed beast?
All that stuff. The Whore of Babylon. It's all, there's all a component within us as well. And as Christians, we have to overcome that stuff. But what's going on in the world right now is it's stimulating all those kind of horrific things into a greater activity. It's giving them greater strength. But, kind of the way you're talking about going back to these spiritual pursuits and pursuits of truth, that will orient us so that those things have a little bit less strength. And the good within us that can resist those things, that can reach upward and reach outward in love, will be strengthened. So I think that, we can change what's going to happen, but I think that it starts here. The individual has to come to an understanding. You have to clarify your perspective first.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. You have to visualize that stuff. I get stuff, manifestation, that is sorcery. And I just can't buy into that.
Right.
I just can't buy into that. I just think everything is energy, and what you focus your energy on, where the focus goes, the energy goes. Again, I'm open-minded. If you can prove it to me, that I'm wrong. I just think it just shows up all the time. Yeah, I want to help these people. I want to help. Next thing you know, you're helping those people. I don't understand how that's darkness. So we've had discussions on this show again about, the Old Testament versus the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny has a theory that the Old Testament was just written at a time that resonated how the people thought. There's also some Gnosticism views that's the demiurge, and that something changes once Jesus comes down from the Old Testament to the New Testament. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say that I'm very much aligned with the ancient Gnostics. A lot of people don't have a good handle on the term Gnostic. It doesn't just mean, when you say that you're a Gnostic, you're not just talking about the fact that you believe in a spiritual gnosis. Like you say, it's essentially the thing that defines a Gnostic historically, traditionally, because this was a very, very, one of the earliest forms of Christianity. One of the earliest forms of Christianity was Gnosticism. The belief is that there is a demiurge that is either purposely malicious or ignorant. I fall into the category where I want to preface it this way. All of these things to me are symbolic narratives. They're ways of talking about things that you can't talk about. The spiritual reality of a thing transcends words. And that's that's the problem with trying to find truth historically, is that what we're talking about, it defies description because it's a spiritual reality that everything else is patterned off of. So having said that, I prefer the analogy, the symbolic narrative of an ignorant demiurge, because there is it built into the structure of reality, at least the appearance of evil. And I think
but when you say God is love earlier, how does that fit into this, what you're saying right now?
So here's how it works. The idea of the demiurge is that it's predicated on this idea of emanations, which means that there is a source, right? And it's whole and nothing else exists. And that source emanates everything into creation. One of the things that it emanates is the demiurge. So then
a God is beyond the demiurge.
The God above God, we call it. The God above God. Now, Christ.
The one God.
Christ came to talk about the one God, whereas, in my opinion, the Old Testament talks about it's the demiurge speaking. How do you go from a testament that says, is highly contractual? Do this for me. Do what I tell you. I will give you this. I'll give you land. I will give you nations.
So interesting. After he's done. Go on.
And then say, so I am a jealous and vengeful God. You will not worship other gods. Acknowledging the fact that there are other gods, and doing all this horrible shit, burning cities, killing children. One of the Psalms, I think Psalm 68 or 98 says, you'll walk in the blood of your enemies, and the tongue of your dogs will dip in the same. Then to go to talk about Christ, who says that God is love, and God loves you, and God will forgive you, and that all you need to do is love him with all your soul and love your neighbor. And he actually says stuff that contradicts the Bible. He starts a lot of his passages, or the Old Testament. He starts a lot of his passages like, verily you have heard it said, A, B, and C. And then he quotes something from the Old Testament. And then he goes on to immediately say, but I say to you, X, Y, and Z. And then he says something that directly contradicts it. And so there's a point in the Bible where he says, I come not to break, but to fulfill the law. But the Greek, and if you want to know the Bible, you have to at least look up the Greek. The Greek word is plerosai. And plerosai doesn't mean fulfill, it means to make it whole, to complete it. So Christ says, I came to complete the law. You didn't have all of it. So what God are we talking to? The all-loving or the all-punishing? And so that is where Christian Gnosticism comes from, is this idea that they cannot be talking about the same God. And so Christ points to the God above God, whereas the Old Testament is pointing to the God that said, hey, if you do what I tell you to do, I will literally kill people to put you on top.
Johnny, what are your thoughts on that? Because it's interesting to me.
Well, he talks also in Luke, right, about fulfilling the Psalms and the words of the prophets and the law of Moses. To me, you're coming at I think the practically, and that's what I care most about. Practically, what you're saying doesn't get you too much of a different place than feeling how I feel, which is that the Bible meets people where they are, historically. And I think the Old Testament was for a savage kind of man, men, the human race.
Savage kind of man. That's a great name for a comedy special, by the way. Savage kind of man.
I really think, I think that this was a different person, who had to be dealt with harshly, or they would not fall in line. They were more, because, we've learned to, most of us anyway, who deal in polite society, have learned to sublimate and repress our many natural urges. But from everything I've read about, especially Old Testament times, and that's, God knows how, we don't really know how long ago some of that was. This was, especially the average person, which is, what this is for, was all id, just
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, you can even look at it like Abraham, right? Technically, the first Jew, right? He's the father of all Christians. He's the father of all Muslims. He's the father of
Yeah.
all Hebrews. He came out of a Sumerian civilization. And if you know anything about, right, the first thing that God tells him to do is leave the city of Ur. And basically, when you do this, we have a deal, we have a covenant. But again, the idea of fulfilling the Psalms and the law of Moses is, again, is what is the Greek word that's being used? Because fulfillment has a right, the translation of the word plerosai into fulfillment has an extremely different connotation than what that word originally means, which is completion. Rather than like fulfilling a contract, fulfilling an obligation, it's making it whole, because the word pleroma means wholeness. That's what that means in Greek. So you have to really dial into the
He does
original
acknowledge that
meaning.
they're writing about him, though, and
Yes, yeah, the Messiah. I mean, I think it's Matthew that ultimately gives this whole genealogy about how Christ is a descendant, a blood descendant of David and stuff like that. But I agree with what you're saying, which is why I prefaced it with saying, like, these to me are all symbolic narratives to describe what you're talking about.
yeah.
But
And like I said, I'm only really the only part that really interests me, and Sam may be different, but it's how it would affect how I live my life and how people today would live their lives, practically. And
Yeah.
the way, the things we both feel really would have no effect on that. And so I
I'm
don't,
gonna be honest with
not
you.
something I get passionate about, to be honest.
Sometimes I feel very guilty because I have vices I'm still battling. And then you read the Testament and what the fuck they were doing in there. I'm like, why is my porn addiction that bad?
there are people sleeping with their daughters in the
Yeah,
Old
I've said that
Testament.
before. It's like, dude, being a regular on Pornhub doesn't seem like so bad at this point, which I'm not anymore. But
I mean, war,
you know.
the prescription for war, slavery. I mean, there's so many. I mean, if you really want to, what would you say? Upset the apple cart, in your faith. Like, I mean, just go and dive into some of the challenging passages in the Old Testament, and you can
for me though, it's just like I love these conversations, and I love and respect. I'm like I consider myself a Christian. I'm just new to it, that I'm just trying to figure out like what I'm dealing with right now, because Christ, we talk about a God above, that God even says, I am the one true God above all gods. So I respect that, and Jesus Christ's teachings, I respect that. That's why I have my heart. So that seems to be the basics of it, right? And now depending on who I talk to, do I have to follow the commandments, all that stuff? I'm learning. Okay, I make no illusions, and this is not here to disrespect anybody's belief. This is where we come to have the conversations. Like, this is what I want this show to be. Not every show, but this episode is a wonderful discussion in it, and I want to just ask these questions because I think it's really important. And, it's just like, when we get into like the Babylonian oral history of the rabbi, and we talk about, the Talmud, or, people have told me in the Quran where there's moments where it's like, oh, you can lie if it's about like this, and this reasons. And that's also in the Talmud too. These are questions I go, why is that there? How is that okay? Why would God be okay with that? And these are just questions I want to ask. And and it's not telling anybody that at the basis of the religion, whether it's Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, that I have issue with it. I just feel like these are fun conversations to have. I could talk to you all day about this stuff, because to me it's the most interesting because regardless of what you believe, when you follow a spiritual path, your life seems to get better. Now, this is the reality, brother and sisters. This is where it is, up and down, up and down. If it was this the whole time, you'd still be miserable. You'd be miserable. Challenges and applying what you've learned about yourself and your connection with God to everything that you do is really, to me, what it's all about. And have you learned, when you take your last breath, what have you learned?
Yeah.
And that to me is the most important thing.
Amen, man. I think that's true. I'm beyond grateful that you bring me into this forum, because they are becoming increasingly rare. And you've got a great platform here with tons of listeners that are interested, and many of which are open-minded. So I'm more than happy to have these conversations. Ultimately, I like yourself. I consider myself a Christian, but I mean, most like lowercase o Orthodox Christians, which include Catholicism, they wouldn't allow me that title. So I have some divergent views, but again, like I like talking about this, because it's, even if you look at the Platonic, right, the Platonic traditions, how did they deal with this shit? How did they search for truth? They didn't do it alone, right? There's this whole thing called the dialectic. And the dialectic is why Plato wrote dialogues. And after him, the Neoplatonists, the Hermetic traditions, if you look at those texts, they're all dialogues after him. Most of the really most powerful ones are dialogues, because that's the way, the person to person, let's suss this out. Let's bring to bear something. I can't do it alone. I need you. This is some of the most important spiritual work that we can really offer one another, is to talk about shit that we disagree about.
So Ike, you're a well-read man in philosophies and religion and the occult. Where does the typical conspiracy falling to your world? When we talk deep state, when we talk elites, when we talk even like human trafficking and all that stuff, and the war in Gaza and what's going on with Ukraine and the Federal Reserve, how do you take what you believe in the world and apply it to things like that, so you can deal with the chaos that seems to be brought to us on a daily basis, thanks to our good friends at social media?
Well, that's a good question. As far as the conspiracy stuff, one of the reasons I joined this world was to suss out the conspiracy stuff. And there are small groups of people in every organization that I disagree with the way that they do things, but I've never in my life seen anything like nefarious on the level of global politics. Anything that I have seen of these little like groups of people, first of all, they can hardly organize a pasta dinner. It's like more like cosplay than anything else. Like, oh, we're the guys. It's like, yeah, but you parked in the wrong fucking space and you're sitting here talking to me. Your car's getting towed. Like you're not that sharp. We're just not. We're just average blue collar guys, carpenters, guys that work at Trader Joe's. We're Masons, and then on the other hand, there is this thing with the internet, where if I wanted to, I could research all the details, I could find all the rituals, I could do this, and then I could go do my own thing and start calling myself the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, or the Martinist Society of America, or we're Freemasonry Lodge number 12. You can just do this shit, and in that way, if you appropriate things and you appropriate organizations and identities and titles and names, and then go do shitty stuff with it, as we've seen, plenty of times over the last several centuries, you're going to besmirch a name. You're going to drag other good people through the dirt, because the truth of the matter is, people want to be fooled. They don't want the truth. Most people want.
I couldn't agree with that part more. That part where people love to be lied to. It's why all these, like Ellen DeGeneres is the greatest example of where we don't want someone coming out telling us the truth. We want to hear what we already believe. Right. Even if we don't believe it, but we present it as a belief. Yeah. And that's why we wanted someone like Ellen, who just looks like she wants to dance with kids while she's just murking motherfuckers backstage and getting the caterer fired because he made eye contact with her. Right. Yeah. Like that's where we're at. Like the originality scares us, because it makes us think about what is being presented to us and how it conflicts with what we've been programmed to believe.
Right. Yeah. And we always fear what we don't understand. And more than that, a lot of time when you join Masonry, the first thing they tell you is like, look, to be a Mason, you now have to be accountable for every action that you do, and you have to carry yourself in a way that is upright before man and God. And you have taken oaths. You know what those oaths are on? I mean, your oaths are to, hold upright the tenets of masonry, which is charity, fraternity, brotherly love, a belief in God, a hope in the immortality of the soul. These are not horrific things. These are great things, but they come with a great price. They come with a great responsibility. And a lot of times people who can't rise to meet that level of responsibility want to tear everything down. They don't want, like we see that constantly. It's always like the worst kinds of people that want the state to take care of them, that want, other people who make more money, who work their hands to the bone to take care of them. These are the type of people that rail against masonry. They're about 50%. The rest are fundamentalist Christians. But or fundamentalist, in Islam, what have you. But there's really no conspiracy other than the one that they're putting targets on the chest of good men, right? Which is very apropos our time. This is a place where we get together for confraternity, to learn how to be men. Those of us like myself that didn't have good male role models. I have a space, I have a place to do beautiful things, to go and donate food, donate clothes, donate time, donate blood, and learn from my elders. Of course, they're going to put a target on our chests at this point. So how do I deal with it? Community is huge. Finding like-minded people and learning from them. And a lot of people are scared of this stuff. They butt against it and it doesn't resonate with them. But my question is to you is, if it resonated with you, would you be growing? Would you be like, some of this shit shouldn't make sense to you at first, because then like it's more of you. It's more of where you're at. So do we want to grow, or do we want to stagnate and stay where we are with our little echo chambers and our little, like you're saying, our comforts? We're very comfortable with the way that we've been trained. We need things and people to challenge us, but ultimately the work, the greatest work, the most intimate work that you will ever do is between yourself and your God. And that is ultimately what pulls me through everything, is my connection to God. I pray every single day. I thank God when things go right. I thank God when things go wrong. And I'm constantly deferring to the part of my spiritual architecture that is closest to God. I'm deferring to that for what to do. Because when this dude, like behind the persona, takes the wheel, he drives it over a cliff. That's just the way it is. So only God does great things. Only God. And so that is how I deal with this stuff. And ultimately, if you're practicing masonry, you're practicing the Hermetic Order, the Golden Dawn stuff, that's the only conclusion you're going to come to.
Are there any elements of Freemasonry that and by elements I mean like sects or groups that you have concerns about, like anywhere?
Well, here's the thing. I did a really, really in-depth 2-part series on my channel about Freemasonry. So I'm going to give a short answer, but for anybody that wants to dive deeper, you can go to my Arcanum YouTube channel. The thing about it is, again, there are lots of groups out there that are not what we call regular. So regularity, I talked to you before about how Freemasonry is decentralized. It's different in all states. It's different in all countries. The way that we maintain kind of like, well, what is Freemasonry? It has to be something unless it's this, otherwise it's this amorphous blob. We don't know what to call it. It's just men meeting on a checkerboard floor, which is not really anything, So how do we define what Masonry is? And we use certain landmarks. And if you adhere to those landmarks and Masonic custom, which is essentially you need to be acting like a just and upright Mason. If you do shitty shit, you're not an amity anymore. We don't recognize you. You lose your regularity. But that doesn't stop anybody from meeting someplace and calling themselves Masons. In my years as a
I get it.
It's like somebody like moving to the house across the street from me and saying like, "Oh, that's my brother." No, it's not. You can tell people all you want that we're related, but it's not the facts. The thing is, like, to what Sam was saying, people don't care. As soon as they get a whiff, they're like, we have a scapegoat. Nice. It's like we have somebody to chew on. We have somebody to tar and feather. It allows us to express that animalistic tribalism that is repressed. basically all these things that we go through in our lives that we either feel like we can't complain about or we have no way to overcome. These little shitty things at work, these little shitty things at home, we just vent that on a scapegoat. That's what a scapegoat traditionally was for. And we've turned these organizations into living scapegoats. In my experience as a Mason, I have never seen anything untoward, even in the slightest, in terms of regular Masonry. I may have heard a few off-color jokes. I may have heard a few individual Masons express political beliefs that I think are horrific bullshit, but an individual is not the arbiter. You know, it's like when they say, like, okay, the opinions expressed in this podcast are not, you know, are not those of Disney. It's the same thing. Like, we can't control what Masons think because part of the ethos is free will. You know, we're not going to twist your arm. It's not the goddamn military. So you're not getting money to be here. So it's if you act out of a line with Masonic ethos, which is ethics, charity, and brotherly love, you know, those things. If you act out of line with that, somebody will come to you and say, listen, you better straighten out and fly right. Otherwise, your ass is going to be on the line. And then you could face Masonic charges. You could face expulsion. You might be forced to demit. There are all sorts of consequences for not acting like a Mason. But at the Trump,
necessary still, do you think, or is it doing more harm than good at this point because it allows people to project whatever they want onto the organization?
Well, that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm getting out there to de-occult the occult. I want everybody to know about it, and I've faced some backlash from traditionalists about that. But the issue is this: the only thing, I swear to you, go online, buy Duncan's Right. If you buy Duncan's Right, you could buy the Preston Webb monitor. That has all of Masonic ritual in it. It has all the speeches. It has all the symbols. Nothing is secret. There are very few things that are secret, and they are modes of recognition. So that I can, if you come to my lodge and you're not a Mason, I can find out that you're not a Mason because you don't know how we greet each other. If you come to
But is it okay? But then there has to be something that taught me that. Isn't there like that taught me the handshake? How would I have known the handshake? Isn't there someone that has to teach it to you? You can't just.
Well, that's what he's saying, that this is the one secret thing is the modes of recognition. Right? Yeah.
That's it. That the only thing you have like a teacher that takes you through these modes of recognition and memorization techniques for ritual. You know, we call it catechism. You learn it there. And you're also given it, you're given it in Masonic ritual, but it's passed down. It's an oral tradition. It's not written anywhere, you know,
fascinating. Really? Oh, I didn't know that.
We don't write it. We don't write it in our books. It'll say, worshipful master proceeds to give the due guard and sign of an entered apprentice. We don't draw it anywhere. You might find it in some old lodge manuals that were supposed to be like secret, but again, it's slightly different everywhere you go. Like my due guard and the signs that I have to give in North Carolina lodge masonry are slightly different than the ones they're doing in London. But you know, those are the only secrets, man. I mean, you can literally pull apart the third degree of Freemasonry. It's out there.
Fascinating.
Well, I find this whole thing super interesting, Ike. One more time, tell them where they can find you.
IkeBaker.com, IKEBAKER. That's got the podcast, blogs. You can buy my new book, and you can reach out to me for any reason. I do give personal, customized sort of curriculum. I do independent study. And if for anybody that wants to talk about any certain subject, you can reach out to me and I'll talk with you for like a half hour about stuff that you're interested in. Other than that, yeah, check out the book. Thank you for having me so much, Sam. Thank you very much to all of you guys for just allowing me this space on here. I love the podcast. I love what you're doing.
Well, you know, I appreciate you. The other guys, don't worry about them. It's well, dude, I enjoy talking to you. I love these discussions. I love it. I could get into lizard people and Nephilim giants, and then we could also do deep talks on Gnosticism, Jesus, and all that stuff. I love it all. I appreciate you coming on, and let's break down this episode. What do you guys think, dude? What do you guys think?
I think I'm going to be the first Mason in tinfoil hat.
Okay. Oh, damn.
Is that all right? Is that okay?
I wonder if there are Mexican Masons.
Hold on. You want to join the Masons, bro? You want to go full Mexican Mason?
It seems like, dude. Yeah.
Does it? I heard it comes with citizenship once you're like past like.
Oh, so you
in.
think you can get in? You're gonna do the handshake?
They're not deporting Masons.
I can't believe we can't find one swarm chick in California that thinks you're cute and would marry you. I can't believe it. I feel like how long you been on the show? 6 years?
He could.
I feel like I failed you.
That's on him. That dude ain't trying to get married.
Yeah, he's just too busy doing drugs and filming himself. Hey,
where?
welcome to my blog. I'm here illegally.
He's
I'm
not
on
filming
Molly.
himself. He's not filming himself. I have to correct you there. He's got someone else filming. He's got a camera crew, a documentary crew filming him.
Yeah, but he has them filming him, which is filming himself.
Yeah, and
technically, if he's paying for it.
No. Sam's just mad because I caught him getting tapped out in the first 10 seconds in my vlog, so he's over here.
Oh, brutal! By the way, it was at Adam Carolla yesterday, and they said they lost money on me.
Oh, how much they put on you?
I don't know. I didn't ask. I was upset.
At what? Where? At Skankfest?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Not fun. It's my fat gut hangs out. That's the worst part of that. It isn't even the tapping that upsets me. It's my fat gut when I'm down there. Oh, it's so upsetting to me.
Are you going to be rolling in Cancun?
I mean, I'm going to go there. I mean, I'll be it's going to be, I think Chingo Bling's a blue belt. I think he's a blue belt, maybe a purple belt. I am a white belt. I'm trying to get my blue belt. I'd love to have my blue belt by then. It's not going to happen, but I would love to have it by then. It's not going to happen.
So I'm going to send this to anybody who can give Sam the blue belt.
No, I don't want to be given the blue belt. I would like to have earned it. I should have had it by now, but because my schedule, I'm always on the road while we're testing. That I haven't been able to test. But, dude, I had a great workout today. Anyway, I had a great workout. I'm starting to get my hooks in, dog. I'm starting to get my fat legs doing my fucking hooks in. Besides that, I can't complain. Anyways, I thought this was great.
By the way, I just got another text. I'm getting because I have a North Carolina phone number, just nonstop political text, dude. It's driving me fucking. I just got one. It says prominent Virginia evangelical pastor says Christians have a biblical duty to vote, and I don't even know who this is supporting. I have to click on it.
So crazy to me. They're gonna rig it, dude. I just think we're gonna live in a reality with President Harris. It's so sad to me. It's
do you really? Because God, the way they're making it.
It's not that I want Trump to win. I just desperately need Kamala Harris to lose.
Yeah, no.
You got money on this, or why you desperately need?
Because I live in this country, and I think it will go to shit even worse than it already.
Man, it gets worse by the day. The neocons have all lined, and the great thing is, if she loses, we can get the neocons just out of the system. Like
I just don't understand what she's doing. It's the problem is we're living in a country where the disparity, what's the word I'm looking for? The disparity.
I don't know what you mean. Just tell me what it means.
The difference between the rich and the poor is getting wider and wider, and these
disparity,
rich people,
though, is the word, right? Yeah,
disparity is getting wider and wider, and the rich people literally have nothing to worry about, so they can fantasize about getting angry at shit. They can just fantasize. Like, he's going to deport interracial couples. Like, how retarded do you have to be to think that is ever going to happen? How many black people does he have to hang out with before you go, couple and bang white chicks? We're okay. Like, yeah, but dude, nobody checks that because their life is so good. They only live in the theoretical. And it's just crazy to me. It's just crazy to me. I can't believe it. But back to this. I hope you guys, if you made this far into the episode, appreciate these discussions. It's not to challenge your beliefs. It's just to have a discussion. My whole opinion is this, is that if you have this much strong belief in something, you should be able to discuss it and hear alternative theories and not be worried about it. And that's my opinion. I will be more than happy to have discussions on everything.
I mean, What I was saying, I mean, you used to have discussions about Jesus not being real. You've always been super open to it. I remember first getting on the podcast, and I was like, I would have a Jesus, my little Jesus piece on me, and you'd be like, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And I knew you were kind of like trying to like figure out where I was at, and I was like, I don't know, because I really didn't. I was young, and like now it just seems like you said,
You're just wearing it for credibility in case.
No, I grew up Catholic.
You're
No,
like,
I grew up.
man.
No, I grew up Catholic, but when someone older honestly asks you, "What do you think?" You sit there and like, well, I'm just gonna repeat what my parents say. And
Yeah, I
now that
respect that.
yeah, and now that I'm older, I sit there and you like, I've
How old are you
we're
now?
like,
How old are
31.
you?
It's been 6 years since I've been
So
on
you
the
came
show.
on here when you were 25 years old.
25.
You came on here when at the age I moved to Los Angeles. Isn't that crazy? That's so crazy to me. That's so crazy. Yeah, I mean, I love the discussion. I think some people get offended by it, and that makes me sad because I think you should have these discussions. And I love it. And I think Johnny, you're a guy who went to church. Do you think there can be more than what you've been taught?
I don't know. What do you mean by that? What do you mean? Do I think there can be more?
I don't want this to be a focus on Christianity. I want this to be a focus on all religions, all organized religions.
I mean, the what I was taught is that absolutely not. No. Yeah. I mean, that's if you're asking.
No. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking you.
Oh yeah, I've always felt that. I've always felt that way. But and the thing, the probably the gateway drug of that belief was that I did this problem of like, what about people who have never heard about the Bible? You know, you're telling me that these people are screwed. You know what I mean? And I could never believe that. That wasn't.
I asked my buddy that, and he was like, "Yeah." He goes, "There's nobody in heaven right now. There's no hell. Basically, everybody's just sleeping." And those who are right go when it's time. We'll go right to heaven. The rest of us will sit for 1,000 years and wait.
Yeah, I mean some people believe that, but the point of it doesn't really matter because think about when you're asleep, you're not conscious. You know what I mean? It's just like you went to sleep and then you woke up. You know what I mean? It wasn't like this. So
it's every flight I ever do.
Right. Yeah. So for people who die, I mean, it's not going to be like, oh, damn, that was a long 1,000 years sleep, you know, they're just going to wake up and
they're going to be like, oh, hey, I'm in heaven and I got to do weird shit. Yeah.
Right. Well, and there's this also, I know you didn't read the book I gave you, but the Rob Bell book talks about there's going to be a new earth too. You know, I mean, we're going to be on earth again, a new earth, and it's going to be made perfect like it was in the days of Eve.
It's going to be a new earth.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like,
Dude, we're gonna be walking around with little stuff over our junk, like leaves over our junk, bro.
Oh no, that's after you get the shame. No, there's nothing.
Oh, okay, all right. So we're just gonna be free balling.
And I mean, think about it, dude. How much do you really expect any of that? Like the idea of a leaf over the? I mean, that's probably not what it was like. In fact, I mean, what if the Garden of Eden was filled with technology? You don't know. We don't know what they had. So yeah, I mean, the people that I liked most growing up always said that, like, because when you think about heaven, what we know of it and kind of what we've absorbed through osmosis, like culturally, it sounds really fucking boring. Do you know what I mean? Just sitting around on a cloud. I think it's done on purpose.
Yeah, bore people.
Yeah. But the people I loved growing up always said, like, listen, the best things on earth are fun. You're laughing. So why would you expect that to be any, whatever is happening in heaven to be any different? I think the Mormons might have it right, dude, where you're just out there creating stuff. They talk about how you have your own planet and thing, you're just creating. Maybe,
dude,
maybe
Planet
Minecraft,
XG like?
Minecraft.
What is
Heaven's
Planet
Minecraft?
like XG like? Just Molly, the water's Molly. Everybody is a little homie.
Everybody's the homies.
I mean, I think there could be. The problem, I mean, like when I think about like, okay, one of the things I would like to see is some kind of sports, like some basketball or something. But then how does that work? Is everybody just happy to when they win or lose? Is every game in the tie? How does that, you know what I mean? Like,
who do you pray for? Who do you pray for before the game, Johnny? Who do you pray for before the game?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll all know who to pray for, but at that point, it'll be obvious because he'll just be there. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like one of my favorite YouTube rabbit holes is near-death experiences, and the things they have in common are that some of this stuff is kind of psychedelic, like this, and so I don't think we can even conceptualize what a lot of it is. But yeah, you hear about people having seen the same figures and beings, and planes, like a plane of existence. The features of it are similar across these near-death experiences. So, and I think that's a little
Johnny, where do your gay friends fall into all this? Where does that happen?
I can ask them if you want. Oh no,
Johnny's getting work. Guys, great episode. Go to SamTripoli.com. A lot of great things are going on there. Johnny, did you have a thought you wanted to finish that I just jumped because I'm trying to?
Well, I know you just asked me about the gays, and then
it was a joke. It was.
But gays are definitely going to heaven.
That was the only thing I was going to.
The gays are going to heaven.
Yeah, anyways, gays are going to heaven.
Go to SamTripoli.com. A lot of great stuff's going on. My specials there. Getting some love on everywhere. Just getting love everywhere. A lot of good things. Guess what? I also did that Matin. Hey, do you guys know who that Matin kid is? The Matan kid?
Yeah.
I watched it. It was pretty funny. I thought it was a great I was laughing out loud. Me and this kid me just sparring with the 17-year-old. I'm like, dude, do you understand that you're in the verbal octagon with this guy's been doing it forever? Anyways, go to SamTripoli.com.
Look at these positive comments. Go leave a comment. Be positive. Everyone's been nice. Look at that.
I mean, dude, go to Twitter. It's all positive. Go to Red Rumble. It's all positive. It's like crazy. I do gotta put it up on YouTube. That'll be next. I'm gonna get this Dana to beep some shit. Anyways, go to SamTripoli.com. I got Tulsa coming up. In November, we're working on another date, and then we might be doing Vegas at the end of December. I'm working on it. At the end of November, Tampa Bay, December 6th, Cancun on the jiu-jitsu overdose. Eddie was talking about that. Columbus, Ohio on the February 6th, Pottstown, February 7th, and Morristown, New Jersey, February 8th. We're looking at I'm looking at going to Arizona at the House of Comedy in January. I'm going to have 2 dates in January too, so those will be coming up soon as well. The big announcement is Chaos Twins episode number 2 is coming. If you want to help us, you can go reserve your issue now. There we go. Click that. Episode number 2, issue number 2 is coming. If you love the first one, you're gonna love the second one. We really start getting into everything, and I'm just gonna turn this into a giant thing. I love the Chaos Twins. I think it's so cool, and a Paranoid American myself are making it happen. Then you just go to SamTripoli. You got our premium content. Buy gold and silver at as we said earlier, at Wise Wolf, Rife Technology, AquaCure Brown Glass, Hydrogen, Harley Ray. Great way if you want to get crystals or candles or any of that stuff. Chemical Free Body. Guys, I think I'm going to make my own supplements. We'll get into that. I'm going to be setting up a store, and we're going to be sitting down, and in the next month, you're going to see us be way more focused than we have. My good friend Joel Staley, good way. Guy. Anyways, the supplements, I take them every day. Chemical Free Body. You're going to be, if everything goes according to plan, you're going to be able to get my own supplements there very soon. Getting in shape with Joel Staley. He'll help you. EMF Rocks. Click that at Tinfoil Hat. Prometheus. If you're looking for a decentralized website, and then our friends at Brame Supreme. Hey, did you put anything out about that, Xavier?
Yeah, we have a new promo code. It's not a new promo code, but it's 25% off, and just use the same promo code SamTrip15, and they got a Halloween special for us, so you get 25% off for the Halloween special edition.
Okay, and then of course Nuke Social, Telegram, go down, all the videos, everything there. And the last thing I forgot to talk about is premium content. Guys, I'm putting up great stuff there. Dangerous. Johnny Cash Reads the Bible. I'm putting up three, four episodes a week. Then you have our good friends at Cash Daddies. We're crushing it over there. Howie Dewey is on fire. And dude, I'm telling you, it's this type of whoa, looking good. This type of Patreon, when someone gives you tip like this usually costs $200 a month. This is $20 a month. So we're crushing it. Anything else, guys, you'd like to promote?
Hit that like button, subscribe, and go leave a review. We're supposed to read them out loud. We'll try to do it next time. So leave a review on Apple or Spotify, please, and thank you.
Come check out Broken Simulation. It's a good one. And then I've been going to war on Twitter lately at Johnny Woodard. If you want, I need some reinforcements. If you want to come help me out,
help Johnny. Okay. Love you guys. Enjoy these highlights.
Here's a clip from the latest Broken Sim. If you'd like to hear the rest of this episode, subscribe to Broken Simulation in your podcasting app or check us out at youtube.com/SamTripoli.
And guess what they're trying to get rid of? The D&D show.
Are they? Oh no.
It's going to be their last year.
Oh no. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's so sad.
Adam
it's the best thing
Silver
on TV, sports.
is garbage.
He sucks, dude.
That fucking vampire alien looking motherfucker
He's a politician.
is garbage.
He's such a politician. He's like a Podesta type, bro. He's just right in there with
and
that
it just
group.
keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and he just won't do anything. Like, what about the NFL, Johnny? What about the NFL? It's like no political shirts.
Oh, dude, I just tweeted about that. So if you don't know, the Buffalo Bills have a policy for their home stadium that you can't have political shirts. Now, I've never heard of that being enforced. And someone made a great point that I'm sure this happened. It was enforced right after they had the political fucking...
no, dude, they played the black anthem.
The jingoism of the national anthem and then the flyover happens, and then they tell this guy he has to take off just a plain Trump shirt. Nothing offensive about it. Let me see if I can find the damn thing. Oh shit, it's a stupid picture of me. Here it is. This guy right here is being asked to take his...
Again, it's an NFL policy that he cannot wear his Trump shirt in the first row.
100% false.
100% false. Right here.
It's not a Trump shirt. It's nothing political.
Nothing political. From the NFL cannot be worn at a building.
We're in a free country.
We're in a free country.
Now, I'm fine with a stadium saying, hey, you can't do whatever they don't want, because it's their property. But I guarantee you they're not doing this to people with Kamala Harris
I totally agree
t-shirts.
with that.
Of course, if you can even find somebody with a Kamala Harris shirt.
And hey, asshole in the mullet, wearing glasses. Okay? Let me tell you something. You're in a taxpayer building right now. The taxpayers paid for this. They can wear whatever they want to. Now, if the Bills don't want you to be wearing Ravens gear at the front, I can understand that. They do that in baseball all the time. You are running a black national anthem. So would you right now go out wherever black people are and ask them to sing the national anthem? None of them know the black national. Nobody knows. It's a made-up thing. It's Kwanzaa. The only people who celebrate the black national anthem and Kwanzaa are rich white people. That's it. Okay? Save it.
State of New York taxpayers committed approximately $600 million to that stadium, while Erie County contributed another $250 million. So taxpayers footed for $850 million.
I will punch you in your tits.
That's gendered language, Sam.
Okay. I'm assuming that guy's got bitch tits.
Yeah, so did you see Fetterman on Rogan at all?
It was very interesting to watch.
Why would you send that guy? I mean, he talks in just... Like, the words he's using are words, but the sentences don't make sense often.
It's just
and look at, did you see, this was the number one YouTube comment. Did you see this? It says, even a guy who suffered a severe stroke and barely understands English can sit down for 2 hours. Props, bro. That's,
I respect it, dude. Yeah. Kamala Harris, you guys got to tell me what the wins are. Tell me what the wins are. Just give me one win that Kamala Harris has had in the last 2 months. Something where went her way.
The debate. That's it. It's the debate.
Look up the Kamala Harris Donald Trump debate. Find the date on that. Find the date.
Okay. Yeah, that's the only. I mean, that was the earliest debate we've ever had. I think because they were trying to get. I'm sorry. The Biden debate was the earliest, and then the one with her was one of the earlier ones we've ever had. You're gonna have to talk while I'm looking that up.
Okay. Oh, Johnny, did you hear that now it's coming out that the Algerian boxer Aman Keith is actually a male, like everyone said?
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's starting to come out.
It was September 10th.
September 10th. Today is November.
Not quite 2 months. Yeah.
Oh, about 2 months. She hasn't had a victory in almost 2 months.
Crazy. Yeah. Wait, so you're saying that Algerian boxer was just a dude?
Yeah, that it's coming out that he's a dude.
No kidding.
Let's see. Huge row after Iman Khalif, Paris Olympics gold medalist, confirmed as male in leaked medical report. The gender identification of Iman Khalif, fucking ads, has come under scrutiny due to leaked medical reports. In a surprising turn of events, the gender ID of Iman Khalif, the Algerian boxer who just won a gold in women's boxing at the Summer Olympics in Paris, has come under scrutiny due to a leaked medical report, according to the document which French journalist Diafar Ait Aoudia was able to secure. Khalif has internal testicles and XY chromosomes, hinting at a disorder called 5-alpha reductase insufficiency. Yeah, so she's got testes. There it is. It's over. She's a dude.
Unbelievable.
My balls go inside sometimes. That doesn't make me a woman.
Yeah, my balls, dude. I got hind tights, dude. I don't even know how I had kids. I really don't.
Really?
When I shoot a rope, I'm like, where did that come from?
Mine hang low, but if I get in a weird position, sometimes it'll just kind of disappear up in my body.
No, right now I'm trying to do No Nut November. It's not going well.
Okay. How are you doing on your fitness challenge?
Not going well either.
I feel like I'm gonna win that.
I know you are, but what am I?
Are you trying? Are you gonna try that?
I'm trying, dude. I'm working out all the time.
Somebody said we should make it put more on the line because it's just a
so
fancy
Johnny,
dinner.
Since you're way ahead, you're like, let's up the ante.
I'm not way ahead. I'm down 2 pounds.
I don't know, Johnny.
Are you
I'm
down?
trying my hardest.
Would you say you're down?
No.
Oh no, dude.
But I'm working out more than
fitness
ever.
Things, though, this is some guy is going to be right again. He says it's pointless doing these things because we're not going to stick to them.
Okay, Johnny. You know that
I didn't
just
say
hurt.
that. He
Fine.
said that.
Johnny,
he said that.
You want some? You want some?
He said
you
it. Don't
just
get mad
got
at
it.
me.
Okay, Johnny. Watch me fucking just crank it up and turn it out, dude.
I hope you do.
You know what I just did, Johnny? I said, "Is that Freedom Rock?" Well, turn it up. I'm about to turn it up, dog. You just got a world of pain coming, dude. Unbelievable that you
I'm
judged
glad.
me.
I didn't
You're
judge you.
so lucky. You just gave me this beautiful card.
That is cool, right?
I would lose it on you, dude.
It is cool, though, right?
It is so cool, and I'm gonna put it right there.
Okay. So have you seen how this is one of the just. According to the news, Boston.com, it's Bush League trolling. It's not. It's genius level trolling by these people who are finding folks who have Kamala Harris signs in their yard.
Oh, I love this.
And they're sending them these mailers that look legitimate. I'm just going to put it on the screen here. It's like a postcard with kind of official looking language on it. It says, "Thank you for supporting Kamala. We are appreciative of you putting out a yard sign.
I love it.
But now we need your continued help. We will be moving," and then it's like a little fill in the blank thing to make it look like they're doing a bunch of these. From the country of Belize into your home on the 3rd of November. They will need food, toiletries, and transportation. Thank you, underline.
I love it, dude. And by the way, Belize isn't that bad, right? I mean,
I don't think so.
If you had to take somebody,
yeah,
they're like, we're going to give you people from Iceland. I'm like, bring them.
Oh, yeah.
Bring those
Especially
White
if they're
Walkers.
ladies, yeah.
Yeah, White Walker ladies, come on in, dude.
That's never Iceland.
Yeah,
people.
your dick gets frostbite. Come on, let's go.
Nobody
dude.
leaves Iceland. And then you had these guys. Did you see those guys that were doing a prank of like dropping immigrants off at houses?
I love it, dude. Would they steal that from Ari Shafir and the Amazing
It
Racist?
really is. Yeah.
I feel like Ari should be in on this election one way or the other.
He broke a lot of ground. Yeah. You have to.
He's gonna quit. Did you hear that? He's taking a break. 2 years.
I did see that.
And word on the street is, and the streets are talking, Johnny, he might be moving to London.
London, really?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful city. I could imagine living there. But all right, here, check us out.
Up like I work for Kamala's campaign, and now I'm gonna deliver immigrants to her supporters.
We are voting for you. Don't worry.
Are you? Of course. We do have a surprise, if that's okay. It's just real fast.
You have a surprise?
We're looking for a place for them to stay. They just came across. They'll sleep on floors. I mean, they're not picky, you know. We have like a 2-year-old, so Hector's good with kids. Sorry, we just can't. Could they just like sleep on your lawn? They need a place to stay. They just came across.
My teenagers live with me.
Oh, that's fine. Hector, he was dating a teenager like a little bit ago, so.
Okay.
They just came across. They don't have papers. You're in support of like the whole border situation, and we're just trying to get them a floor to sleep on. We're a house of COVID. Do you guys want COVID? They said they could survive it.
You learn how to say her name.
We work with her, so we know how.
You don't work with her either.
See that car? We have 3 dudes who just came across the border. We're trying to find them a home.
Find them a home.
Just say I'm voting for Donald Trump without saying it, okay?
That's a wrong attitude, mister. I said my vote is private.
So you're voting Kamala?
No.
We go go deep, homeboy. Aaron, open your mind. Drink from the fountain of knowledge. There's lizard people everywhere. That's some interdimensional shit. Wake up, Aaron.
This is only the beginning.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Tinfoil hack, tinfoil hack, tinfoil